So you never truly stop creating even after the human experience, and that hell is just, it doesn't exist. This is where these beings or souls will reside, ghosts or spirits or things of that nature who are just not ready to move on. Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea Johnson. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher, energy worker, and spiritual lifestyle content maker. Welcome to another episode of Conscious Coffee Talks, where I like to sit down with you beautiful souls and talk about a topic to expand our consciousness. Let's dive right into today's topic. Today, let's talk about the afterlife. Let's talk about what happens when we leave this dimension, when our soul decides to leave the body. I'm going to go over and discuss with you guys what I've learned from my psychic classes that I've taken, what we've been told that happens to us after we pass. I'm going to go over the spirit world of what that exactly looks like. And then I'm going to go over what I kind of think from my own experiences that I've had with these things, what I kind of think that this all is. To kind of start off with, our soul is connected to our body through what they call the silver cord. The way I think about this silver cord is when I think about Hercules, three witches, and they were like trying to cut the string of life.
What's the matter with you, scissors? The thread won't cut.
That to me is the silver cord. That is what connects our soul to our body or ties it to us. Now, when this cord is broken is when we are disconnected from the body. The soul cannot return to the body. The body is probably not functional physically to house an energy such as your soul. People who have died and then come back have actually said that they have felt themselves or seen themselves floating outside of the body and then looking down and seeing their body and not really understanding what has just happened. Most of the time it's from a tragic accident, that when people die and then come back and that kind of happens to them, they mainly see themselves as a point of consciousness, that they kind of forget who they are a little bit. There is some identity still there, but not as strong as what the body ties us to, our identity of the ego per se. So not as much ego is there. So they're in this, what I like to call astral realm per se. There's different layers of, I want to say, consciousness or reality or dimensions, whatever you want to call it. But the closest one where I believe that they kind of float outside the body, there's a little bit of ego left, but not a lot. They still understand like what they are. They may feel a little lost, a little disconnected. They're not quite sure what's going on. Just like in life, I do feel in the afterlife, we have free will. The soul or the person has the ability to choose to stay in this vicinity per se and be closer to the human. This is where you will get people with unfinished business, and I do this because later on I'll kind of go into my thoughts behind this. Not wanting to fully cross over just yet into the oneness per se of reuniting back with source. This is where these beings or souls will reside until they decide that they're ready to go to the next layer. This is where communication is easier to contact people who have passed, is because they're more of a vibrational match, closer to the human. So it's levels of vibration that we contact these beings or souls or whatever. Is when we raise our vibration, we're meeting them halfway pretty much, because they're vibrating at a certain frequency and we're vibrating at a certain frequency, and we have to both learn how to come here to communicate. So it's almost like a game of charade. So if they want to contact you through maybe some thoughts and feelings, because their energy, there can sometimes so much energy behind them wanting to contact you, they can probably learn how to push objects. That is where you will get like ghosts or spirits or things of that nature who are just not ready to move on, or their energy is just tied to something in the physical realm that they don't want to leave. And I say this because, once again, I will get more onto that later. So when they decide that they are done with the physical world, they will move on to the next layer. And that is where we kind of do our life review. Your life review is pretty much just going over all of the lessons in your life and you feeling how all of your actions have affected those around you, and you get to feel what they have felt of how your actions have impacted other people. So then you better understand or gain information or knowledge or wisdom on how your actions affected others. But it's supposed to be used as a learning tool and to help you decide what you would like to go experience next. Somebody could think of this as like the judgment. I don't necessarily look at it as judgment, and I don't think that's what is going to end up happening, because it's not going to be neither right nor wrong. In that level of vibration, you will have enough wisdom to know what the real world is, and that energy is just energy, and there is no labels assigned to it. Our humanness is the thing that dictates what is right and what is wrong based upon a perception. When you're re-feeling all the things that you have made other people feel, you're not going to judge yourself for it. You'll just re-feel it, and it won't be right or wrong. You'll feel it and let it go, and it's just going to be what it is. And then moving forward, you'll know how to act differently in a similar situation. After the life review, you get to decide what you want to do, whether you want to stay in the astral, further learning. There's, masters there and teachers there, and the place of just like a school, pretty much, of just wisdom and knowledge and learning. Sometimes people say that they are greeted by loved ones and then angels and other beings, and sometimes there is like a temple. Like, it just all very much depends. Everybody has this like different perception or experience of what they have said happens, or if somebody has passed on and what they have experienced, somebody else has had a different experience. From that point of being, if you would like to return to Earth or to another dimension, a solar system, or have another experience as maybe an alien somewhere, then you can. Or if you're ready to go back to source and oneness and unite for a bit, you can. But you'll only stay there for a bit, because source cannot be without what it is not, if that makes sense. Experiencing source, all there is, you will be experiencing it. You will be experiencing yourself. You can't fully experience it until you have not experienced it. So eventually you will want to leave it, and you will want to go experience something different. So that's when you have the free will to do so, and that is your contract per se with God, or the deal with God. God's will is your will, of you get to do whatever you want to do. And there is no right nor wrong, there just certainly is. So once you decide to go back and experience whatever it is that you want to experience, the whole process repeats. This is just going to be a never-ending process, guys. There will always be the ebb and flow between the oneness or the not oneness. It will constantly be a roller coaster throughout all eternity. And this is because we are recreating ourselves, re-experiencing ourselves, and we're on the wheel of life per se. But we will always return to source eventually, because that's what we're promised. That was part of it. You don't have to wait for the afterlife to return to source. You can return to source anytime. Anytime. You just have to know how to see through the illusion and to go within. Now that I've kind of explained that, I'm going to get a little bit more into what I think. I don't think it's neither right nor wrong. I just think it is, and especially after talking with people with like near-death experiences, after my experience with the energy work and loved ones crossing over, and just knowings that I've had in my communications with Source and understandings, is we have free will now, and we create with our perception of life now. And I don't believe that's going to change in the afterlife. I really don't believe that there is a different place that the afterlife is happening. It's just right here. And it's just our conscious expansion of it. When we cross over or we leave the physical body, we ultimately raise our vibration, because the body is, this dimension is a lower vibration. And when we leave it, we will shed our ego, ultimately. Even if it's not fully shed, we will shed some of it to come back to a re-remembering of what we truly are. How much somebody will or will not remember, but I truly believe at the conscious expansion. As you raise your vibration and shed the ego and your consciousness is expanding, you're then remembering who you are and dropping the ego even more. So as you become more consciously aware, just kind of like the same as here, you create your reality, and you're still creating whenever you're in the afterlife, in the astral realm, in the real world, essentially, of the world of energy. So you never truly stop creating, even after the human experience. That's kind of the way that I see it and feel that it's happening, based upon your beliefs that you've held on to in that current moment, because the moment is the eternal now. The beliefs that you held, you will manifest said reality in the afterlife as well too. So I think this is where people have different experiences dependent upon what they believe to be true. For example, that you believe in heaven and hell. If you believe that in the afterlife, it could very well exist, but eventually you'll come into your knowing, because the ego will shed itself, and therefore you'll be more awakened and understand what is going on, that you will understand that there really is no heaven or hell. Everything just is, and it's your creation per se. There's only one true oneness. So you'll realize this oneness, or nirvana, or essentially what you would probably consider heaven, and that hell is just, it doesn't exist. Only the hell that you create, your separation. But you could choose that if you want to. We choose it day in and day out here, consciously or unconsciously, and you do the same in the afterlife. Now, if you think you're going to burn for all eternity, or that there's going to be a man in the sky that judge you or whatnot, then that might be what you manifest at first, and then you will soon realize that you have a choice and that you are creating it, and then you get to choose what your next reality will look like, or if you want to come back to the oneness. That is that next step further to higher vibration. Do you hear all of these stories of like near-death experiences where sometimes people are greeted by loved ones that have passed away, sometimes they're greeted by God or by angels? Whichever way that they believe in their life, they kind of manifest that in the afterlife. So that's why everybody's experience is so different, and there always really hasn't been like one true way happening for everybody. We continue to create beyond this life and into our next. So if you aren't holding true to what you believe in, or if you're easily swayed in your belief, you will then fall into the mass consciousness of humanity with what happens. More so, what is influencing you to believe what happens in the afterlife will happen to you if you really don't hold your own belief. Therefore, essentially, if you die in a state of uncontrolled thoughts and perception, you kind of move on with that until you decide to wake up from it. You're in control of everything. I really feel like that is what happens to us in the afterlife, and even, you know, our loved ones that have moved on or passed on. The angels, our loved ones, even in the afterlife, when we greet them or whatever, and even the beings, they're an aspect of us. They are us. You are basically the same consciousness playing a game with itself. They're not separate from you. Kind of the same thing with unfinished business, with like spirits having unfinished business. There's no reason for them to have unfinished business. Once they're done here, they go on. It's you that is holding that unfinished business. Something has to heal within you, or there's an aspect that you're holding on to from a past loved one, even consciously or unconsciously. So, and that's kind of like the thing with like ghosts and stuff like that. They're just an aspect of you, the consciousness playing a game with itself. So essentially in the afterlife, it's kind of the same thing. If you want to experience your loved ones around you again, and the unity and the one, or I say the oneness and the unity of, you know, just knowing that you were never separate from them in the first place, you will experience that. And then you will wake up and realize that you were all one to begin with. There was never no separation between you and these other beings or souls or angels or whatever you want to call it. You get to decide what you want to experience in the astral realm, the afterlife, the energy world. I think that there might be a certain level where there's kind of a little bit of separation between the oneness, and that's kind of where you perceive these things still outside of yourself until you go back to the oneness. But we can ultimately go back to the oneness anytime we want, even in this dimension right here, right now. You can return to it. It's just an ebb and flow of staying there or not staying there. We can't always remain there. It's just how it is. It's how we've designed it. It's our deal with God, our deal with ourselves, pretty much. God gives us free will and lets us experience our divine nature without interference. Ultimately, you can't experience the oneness without the not oneness. Then once again, you will decide to create the separation or the illusion of the separation so that you can experience what is not one, so you can get to know yourself, if that makes any sort of sense. So that's my take on it. Ultimately, nothing is right nor wrong. It just is. If you take anything away from this video, you create with your perception, and you're not going to stop creating from your perception or your conscious awareness or your vibration, conscious expansion, even after you're done with this human experience. You're just going to keep creating and experiencing what you want. Just up to you. You're the creator, and some people's minds the co-creator. Hopefully your consciousness is expanded, or maybe I've just confused the heck out of you. But either way, there's nothing to fear. Death is an illusion. We're just going to keep going. So with that being said, guys, I'm sending you all of my light and all of my love. We'll see ya.